I just got online. I just noticed that this clash is going on. In fact, several times they've been matching up against each other as B and B, BC versus B. Let's kick into it. Let's not waste any time. And whoops. There we go. Switch across to caster mode. Looks like we're going to be taking the Wetlands here to open up the stream. And it looks like B is whipping out the Malians. Apparently, he's been playing quite a lot of the Malians at the moment. Definitely a very potent civ. We're seeing a lot of viable builds coming out. No, I'm just kidding. We're seeing the same build over and over again. It's the Frimba Garrison focus build, right? Where you rush into Castle Age and you just churn out unlimited troops, it feels like. It's almost like just an HRE on crack cocaine being boosted up by Nitro is the best way to think about it. An interesting take coming out from BC. Now, if you're not aware, AI Easy is in fact BC. I think he always was, because there used to be an AI Easy account months ago, and I believe this was also BC. That was back in 2021, if I recall correctly. I remember casting one of those games where it was quite amusing to me the first time I saw it. But I believe that has always been Beastie. And he has whipped out the Malians here for good reason, right? This is actually probably one of the better civs to try and use up against the Malians in 1v1s. For a start, typically a Malian player wants to whip out these houses around the pit mine as the most optimized play, which means that you're going to have these exposed points that can be burnt down. 400 HP on each house, and of course, if the Mongols do torch them down, they're going to get paid 50 resources. Love the opening and response from B, though. Realizes that this is not going to be all for free. He has to contest now, and he has one thing on his side here. Although he can't get raw numbers, he does get quality. Remember, the Dunzos, not only do they have the ability to throw a javelin at the beginning of these fights, but they also have extra armor, and it looks like B has just completely prioritized the villager to take him down, attempts some body blocks along the way with the scout, maybe stopped him a fraction of the way here and there, but realistically, the big detail there is how effective these units are now. Remember, I believe it was just before Wallol, they made a pretty substantial change to the way charge interaction works, where you charge for longer, but the trigger distance rather is shorter. So that's what allowed him to just stick on top of the target, constantly just piling on him there. And now with 4 Dunzos, I mean, this could be an easy kill. I love how the animation just keeps skipping out here. Even the wolf is joining in, and oh my dude. This is the annoying thing, right? Like, Mongols seem like one of the best things you can do against the Malians to try and shut them down early. You know, just block out this pit mine house escalation, which got buffed, by the way. It's getting insane. And torch them down and get paid. But Dunzos were they were just entirely neglected, really, by Malian players for a long time. And now that I'm seeing it in action up against the Mongol attempted outpost rush, I'm starting to wonder why. Like, we're talking about a Dark Age unit that has a ranged attack. A ranged attack that does 7 damage. Like, just watch what happens here. He moves across. He's looking for the Villi. You can never easily engage. And in fact, he takes out the Khan, rather. Good God. I'm pretty sure you can't get this outpost up. I mean, this is just kind of doomed, right? You'd have to pressure so deep, like you're going to lose a few spearmen in the process. And I think you still have to build more spearmen in the whole time. You see, like, at any point, if this gets close to done, you'll just see him charge in. B can easily just beeline past and take out the villager. And there's that charge I was talking about. It's just absurd how quickly you can gap close like that. Now he's got a few of the spearmen through. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter you've got this front line of spears anymore. The villager can never return. And I believe the javelin will be coming off cooldown soon. He can even just harass the boar here. Like, he's outnumbered in this area. If he just attacks the boar, there it is. Little Pumba gets activated. Oi, oi, oi. No, 2 villagers. I mean, honestly, this is starting to feel like the type of game where if BC doesn't get this outpost up and loses 2 more villagers on top of the 2 lost already, he might just feel like this is over. It sounds almost dramatic, but realistically, like, what's the difference maker here? You know, you've invested multiple villagers idling. You've been mirrored Dunzos versus Spears. Of course, the Dunzos do cost more, but they're getting better trades because they have that ranged attack and that melee armor. Not to mention, you know, the fact that, like, they're easily able to just disengage and wait for this to reset. It only takes 10 seconds for a javelin throw. It's a difficult one. The Beastie, now with 2 villagers, he looks to commit. However, those javelins come off cooldown. B could easily just take these villies out. There it is, long shots coming in, heavy damage being done. I actually think mathematically, like, you're going to lose both villages before you complete this. Like, B doesn't even need to rush it the way he's rushing it. He could just choose to hold javelins and he'd stop the villages. Like, it's off cooldown again. So if he wants to go in for the second flurry. Yeah, heavy damage in. Oh, he misclicked. So he's going to have to commit now, which could cost him dearly. BC on point with the defense, left to right here. Plenty of villagers to saturate the area. Jabs are coming off cooldown in 1 second. If he gets the timing right, he could easily stop this, but it looks like he's going to miss his opportunity. Snipes one of the villagers, but second one will survive. Beastie keeps himself in this. Man, that's actually got to be so infuriating for B and Beastie. I think Beastie, like, he's aware, you know, that javelin was misthrown. And if that javelin had hit the right target, this villager probably dies. But I think that's actually to Beastie's credit. What we really saw here, I believe Beastie was intentionally just wrapping back and forth over the villagers to body block with the hitboxes, so that when B went to click them, there was a high probability that he would misclick on one of the spearmen instead of the villagers. Just crafty plays like that make the difference. Because you have to remember, like, you know, there's a reason why so many people choose to A-click in Age of Empires 4. Trying to click on the hitboxes of specific units is still a little bit clunky from time to time. So good utilization of that by Beastie to keep the dream alive and now keep the pressure piling on. That pressure is going to add up fast. We should be having these upgrades coming through. Spearmen aren't there yet, but the hardened Donzos have arrived. However, there's only a few of them left. Now the hardened status comes out for Beastie as well, so now he can pile up the pressure. I just remembered, apologies, there was a button, wasn't there? I need to remember my UI. Sorry. Because I just realized, I looked at the top, and I'm sure that's getting annoying for people. It was Shift-Alt-F, not Alt-F4. Sorry, guys, I need to start remembering that. So, there you go. I'm the right way around. So yeah, you can see, like, Beastie has double the count of spears. And now you've lost all the gold. You'll see him probably try to retreat for more gold elsewhere. The real thing that's been keeping B alive in this is the wetlands ponds. We didn't mention he was doing this, but he was fishing, so 1 food a second. Pretty substantial gathering rates here. That was, of course, being mirrored by Beastie. Beastie gets a little bit more bang for buck because he does have that YAM network online now. So he's able to move a lot faster with his villagers. Wheelbarrow is only now being prepped by B. Interesting. Survival techniques choice coming out from Beastie is... Ah, I see. He has got the deer close to his spawn here. Really close, actually. Wow, I didn't even notice that before. When we open up on this, I didn't notice just how good of a spawn this was for the deer. I mean, this is why Mongols can be very good on this map. Wetlands resources are quite chaotic. In the meantime, Lost Spears going down both sides. However, B does hold firm. Has started to set up the houses for the additional pit mine over here on the gold vein. We'll probably look to return for the other one later, but in the meantime, the outpost is going to die him, and oh, you sneaky goose. B doesn't know. B has no clue right now, and he's being distracted by this spearman raid on the south side, so unlikely he's going to spot this outpost going up. I'm not entirely sure if the arrow slits will reach here. I think they're just going to be short of where they need to be. Like, their range will be about here, across the halfway point of the gold vein. So these villagers, in theory, should be safe, even if BC upgrades the tower. And hello. Well, that's an interesting switch up quite early on. Musafadi warriors already being layered in by B. Makes a lot of sense if you think about it, though. Like, these units, you can't disengage from them unless you use the maneuver arrows or have YAM. Shivs out from the villagers as well. Just make sure the damage is piled on. But this does mean that he can't just be kited indefinitely, right? The Mustafadi are always going to gap close you now, and they have comparative damage. Also, I think they have comparative cost, right? Like, you're paying gold instead, but you're paying less food. It's actually a pretty valuable unit choice here compared to the Donzos. Like, Donzos are good very early on when you're trying to micro small groups and you're using the javelins regularly. But when you just need constant pressure and constant push, Mustafadi are just ridiculously effective because of this. It's pretty cost effective, especially when you get passive gold going. And well, villagers were pulled to the outpost. Looks like you did notice in the end. Spearman a little bit late to arrive here, but the villagers are going to pay a little bit of a price here. Another villager of the Mongols does go down. B has to retreat away. I think overall, yeah, so it looks like so far still a good trade for B, killing 4 villagers in total now compared to just 2 that have been struck by Beastie. Pit mine is now going to be established, and it looks like Castle Age has been reached for Beastie. Great pivot here. Initial aggression looked good. He gets pushed back. He basically wastes B's time by setting up this outpost while he's distracted from the spearman, and that forces B into a later timing into his Castle Age. Now, he's not going to be far behind with the Frimba garrison here, and this is where things get a little bit awkward. Because although BC got the better timing on his Castle Age, it's incredibly difficult to keep up with what the Malians do now when they unlock the Frimba garrison. Let's just see what BC can do, though. Looks like he's prepping for the Musafadi, especially after he just saw a few of the men-at-arms coming out. I'd love to see a switch up from BC, not just going for them. We're seeing archers now layered in. This is a good choice. Love the fact he's going for the shaman as well. Because the way he's playing this, he needs to try and keep B in his base before he escalates this Musafadi warrior count. And that means that you should have mid-map control to try and pick up relics in the meantime. And then Arms just trying to be a little bit of a nuisance. Archers at the backside to threaten onto those Musafadi warriors. Opening trade is looking good for Beastie. B may have jumped the gun a little here, but he's desperate to get as much gold as possible. Because remember, the way the Furuma garrison works, you have to have the resources for 5 of the unit. Obviously, you get a 20% discount, but still, you can see what that means. If the Javelin Throws is now building, 480 gold need to be gathered. You got just enough to get there. Now the pusher is going to commence. Mosk also being established by B, but will change his mind about the idea. He's going to go for the textile, so understands that he's going to be under some pressure to begin with here. Just needs to get back on the gold. If that means sacrificing 1 or 2 villies to get that initial drop-off for the second wave of troops, then so be it. Archer Rangers also trying to be prepped. And this should actually give a little bit of a hint to BC of what's happening here, that B doesn't really have the income to afford Farimba. So if he gets this Archer range up, he has an alternative way to push troops to counter out this initial wave. So BC needs to get value elsewhere. That's why he's already got 2 Shamans out in the field picking up the relics. In the meantime, B will get a little bit of breathing room courtesy of the Javelin Throws. These Javelin Throws are a bloody pain in the arse. Not just for the Archers, but even against the Men-at-Arms, they can do reasonable damage. Half their damage goes through. So they are going to have to trade out. The Men-at-Arms are going to be able to clash with them here. Archers, not the best of traders here. Remember, that's free ranged armor on the Javelins. Overall, not too bad of a trade, considering the follow-up now coming out in favor of BC as he harasses an entire villager line. 25 villagers now idling in the base for B. Javelin Throws are just going to have to trade it out with the Archers. Men-at-Arms are more than content to just continue to idle eco. We're finally now chasing the Javelins, and I'm getting a worrisome feeling for B here. He doesn't have the troops. Remember, behind this, BC is picking up all the relics. He's looking to just seed himself more gold. He has the step readout, and you have no access to gold because you never got rid of this outpost on the north side of your base. So instead, you're now standing here, being harassed constantly, and finally we see the first wave of Musafadi warriors hit the field, but we have to question whether it's going to be enough. Archer count has slowed down for BC. Javelin Throws more or less are gone. Men-at-Arms are not the answer anymore. BC does need to back away. Musafadi warriors are going to give chase. Villagers are going to be protected by the outpost, though. Looks like we have got a spring on emplacement. So now it's difficult for B to keep this up. He just needs to get enough gold to get the second wave out. But once again, the Men-at-Arms do sneak in. Once again, you can't help but feel more outposts are on the way. Beastie once again moving in for that outpost. This time he will not be denied. Just 1 minute. Look at this guy. Oh, the charge. Okay, so this is awkward for him, right? So Beastie can't ever reach the villages with this Man-at-Arms, but the Man-at-Arms was constantly in charge mode because of that detail. And what was happening is B, he was hitting once with his Musafadi warriors, and then his charge was gone. So he had a lower movement speed than the Man-at-Arms that was chasing across the map here. Oh, man. B finally forfeits that front gold. He has to go for the western one. He's still got some lifelines here, remember? Oh, okay, cut that out. No, he hasn't got lifelines. This is do or die. Because BC already took out the gold vein to the north side. You crafty little bugger. And now a hard investment by B into those Javelin Throws, now up to 10. I just love to see maybe a Maganel play out of Beastie, but until he's got maybe 20 to 30 units, he won't feel comfortable because the issue you have with rushing a Maganel is that Musafadi warriors can gap close it. But in the meantime, I mean, like, this thing's looking pretty good, right? Like, Sacred Sites are being capped. 2 more relics on the way home. I think this should, yeah, this is, I think that's, wait, is that accessible? Maybe. I've got a feeling it's not, though. Wetlands, ladies and gentlemen. What a dumb map. Looks like B, after all that, he has his gold now, so he can begin to snowball. Beastie. He's going a different way about this. He's pivoted hard into the Shamans, already up to 8. Javelin Throws out in the middle of no man's land. Big mistake there. Horsemen easily will be able to gap close on him. Musafadi warriors are on the way, but remember, the Shamans can be the difference maker to keep everything alive here. Horsemen are clashing with the Musafadi warriors right now, so not getting the best of trades. Musafadi warriors also not getting the best of trades in return as they're busy attacking horses instead of Men-at-Arms. Remember, these units do get bonus damage against heavy units, of which veteran horsemen are not. Well, I think we know where this Congo line is heading. It's moving all the way back to that corner. That's where Beastie wants to go, but won't be easy to get there. Behind this, I wonder, is Beastie thinking about maybe a second TC play? Could we be seeing an attempt to fall back to Imperial Age? Probably no Imp Age likely anytime soon. Like, you have to keep the pressure on the Malians. I could see a world in which he goes for a second TC. I don't think he's going to feel the need to, though, because of all the gold he's getting. But down the line, maybe 3 or 4 more minutes, we might see second TC from the Mongol player once he's secured all these relics and all the sacred sites. And remember, by the way, all these sacred sites are situated away from B's base. So we'll have to come out and play now that all 3 of them are being captured. Were being captured. Any day now, buddy. Now, in fairness to Beastie, he has been live for over 7 hours. And after he got another Malian game, he's probably like, I just want this day to be done with. Uh-oh, the walls. Oh, he didn't get him up. I mean, they're baby walls. These ones don't count. So Horsemen are through. There are no defenses around the pit mine. B is going to have to defend with his army here, which means he's once again just going to forfeit over the sacred site areas and also forfeit over the east side of his base here, where more horsemen are now wrapping in. Remember, one thing that B definitely needs more of is wood to escalate with the pit mines, the houses, additional infrastructure. It's all important. The horses found a way in. Oh, no. And the crazy part is I think BC had the early tip-off because of the outpost back here. So B, I think we're about to activate the Benny Hills music because I've got a feeling this is going to be going back and forth from left to right and never really gaining anything for it. Horsemen once again making their way in towards the wood lines, which is going to force that retreat out. The sacred site's now all under the control and dominion of Beastie. 9.5 minutes until we get a Mongol victory. Horseman count is looking pretty damn scary, actually. I mean, I gotta admit, B doesn't have a... I'm not going to say a good or a reasonable or a decent. Like, he doesn't even have a bad answer to Horseman, right? He just has nothing. It's just... Well, I guess you could say that Javelin throws are a bad answer, but you get my point. Like, this unit is not going to defend you long term. He really needs Donzos or he needs Musafadi. Looks like he is queuing up more Musafadi, so he's worried that he's getting baited in, that he's going to counter Horseman too hard, and then Men-at-Arms will come over the top. Understandable. And not the best of trades to open up with here, B, trying to take on an outpost with Javelin Throwers. Oh, but this trade's much better. Horsemen are in again. Shivs are going to be pulled out. Love this detail from B. He's keeping the imam over here, so any small damage done to a villager, any chip damage is not going to be enough to cut it. So counter of the raid is effective. The Javelin Thrower count is escalating. Now, the danger that you run if you're B doing this is that your opponent could just see this mass and say that's finally worth a Maganel. And one Maganel, yeah, your Javelin Throwers are pretty much just going to be crushed to death by rocks. Right? They're honestly, they're going to be the bug crushed underneath a pebble. It's not going to be pretty. Even Musafadi Warriors don't really like going up against Mangos because they're not the tankiest units. Obviously, they can gap close, but let's say you've got 20, 30, 40 horsemen in the way. Gap closing isn't really an option anymore. It looks like the map is getting really small. I mean, I'm really worried for B. I don't think he's weathered the storm. I think BC's doing a great job of keeping the pressure up. Like, the thing you have to keep in mind is if we were to carve the map up right now, B has like a quarter of the map, if that. I think he has like maybe less than a quarter, a fifth or a sixth. It's pretty pitiful how small his map control is right now. And look what's coming behind this. That's what we were waiting for. BC is now prepping for the siege. So we are going to get a Maganel built. At which point, this could be just one smush of Javelin Throwers and a GG. Pressure continues. Burn down on the mosque and the mills. So that's going to be payday for Beastie. These outposts. Remember, these outposts just give the rotational power across to the Mongols. This is one of the risks you run. When you're up against Mongols, if you forfeit early game like this, they're going to get map control. They're going to set up these outposts, and they're always going to be able to respond to you. Clash coming out towards the sacred site area. Horsemen now wrapping around. Shamans are going to move in. The healing factor is going to be strong here. Tank speed arrow as well. And BC looking firm to hold. Strong to dominate. And likely to crush B here. No way B will be able to hold. He's going to lose the entire army here. It's going to be over a 2-to-1 military deficit, and that will do it. B cannot get out of the map. He does not stand a chance of contesting with BC's control. BC will close out with a win.